this. I honestly don't know why we did this, but
Well, I technically picked the album. I saw Kem gave me a list, and I was like, absolutely, Michael Bolton all day long.
all right, for this week, the album that we're going to be discussing is a brand new album by Michael Bolton, Spark of Light. Spark of Light is the 25th studio album by American singer-songwriter Michael Bolton. Surprisingly, this is the first album of all original songs, and a number of which he has co-written himself. Doing research on this album was very difficult. There isn't even a Wikipedia page for this, so the intro is pretty sparse. But Eric, your thoughts on the 25th studio album by Michael Bolton?
So I've never listened to a Michael Bolton album ever. And the only one that I remember as a child was the album where he kind of looks like Daniel Day-Lewis back in the 90s with the long hair. And people who don't know what I'm talking about, Love and Tenderness.
Yeah.
Like he looks exactly like Daniel Day-Lewis, Time, Love, and Tenderness. And like he was a legend back in the day. And in fact, it's funny because you look at his albums, it's almost like he takes personas of people. Like that one, he looks like Kenny G.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Right?
Oh,
So I mean, I mentioned before the podcast started tonight, I told Cam, I was like, Michael Bolton is the unpopular Tony Bennett. So correct me if I'm wrong, everybody. But
it's pretty accurate.
I mean, the last pop album we reviewed, we got all our fan mail about Kelly Clarkson. So I am hoping that there is a Michael Bolton fan that's like, no, you guys are all wrong, man. You got to check out Love, their Time, Love, and Tenderness to really get his whole persona. But I mean, the album wasn't horrible. It wasn't horrible, but I just could not get, and I don't know why, but I just could not get the Captain Jack Sparrow song out of my head while listening to this whole thing. And I don't know why, but it just what it was.
It's such this album, yeah, the Captain Jack Sparrow song is like unjustifiably catchy. It's such a good, like, ridiculous song. And this album, I don't know, man. Like, it's so boring.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so generic. It's like Michael Bublé without any like talent.
Yeah, I almost was like, I felt like someone was playing a practical joke on me while I was listening to this album, because it was like, is this supposed to be serious?
Like, this album, to the point, like, I was thinking, you're better off just not releasing this thing. Like, he has whatever, all those previous albums, there's no reason for this thing to be released. It's just so boring and generic. Like, even the names of these songs, like Safe is track 7, Home is track 8, like Just the Beginning is 6. Like, these are We Could Be Something 9. Like, these are terrible names.
So the later half of the album, like, I almost felt like I had some sort of like ADHD. Like, I don't know what the disorder is. I'm not good with those terms or what they are, but it was something to the fact that I could not pay attention to this. Like, the beginning, I was like, okay, I gotta listen to this for the podcast, because I tried listening to this many times, and I just, like, after song 4, it was like, okay, I don't know what's going on anymore. And then all of a sudden, like, so with Apple Music, I have it set so there's like a setting where it's like you can continue to play music or you can stop just generically. And I found that if I just stopped, it was almost like I was in kind of like the psychosis sometimes. So I would change it so that if I heard something, I was like, wait a minute, this isn't after the album plays, it will change into something similar. So it would be like, okay, I'm listening to Michael Bolton. I know how he sounds as a vocalist. And then all of a sudden after this album, it would be like Whitney Houston or something like that, right? So it's just like, okay, the album was over, right? So I remember listening to it, I was like, holy fuck, like I completely like just zoned out. So that being said, like I really tried listening to this front and back, which I don't think is achievable because I think it's just so easily to get lost and just like your mind wanders. However, there like the first couple songs weren't actually bad. Like if you had to actually like put them, and I understand why they put them at the front because it's like I don't know how the hell we're gonna sell this album. But if I had to choose a song, it would be Running Out of Ways would probably be the best song on this album.
Track 2. Yeah.
Because it was the shortest. But it was actually not bad. It was actually not bad. I actually quite enjoyed that song. Because every time I tried listening to this album, I did lose track. So I tried to break it down. I'm like, I'm going to listen to 3 songs, stop, and I'm going to listen to the next 3 songs, which isn't like a good experience to listen to an album, right?
Yeah. No.
Obviously, it's forced circumstances because we're on this podcast, but
positives from this album, I think Michael Bolton still can sing. He still sounds pretty good for however old he is. I'm not actually sure, but he's still sounding good, and
he's very consistent.
Yeah. Production wise, like these are pretty standard run-of-the-mill pop songs, like nothing to complain about. They sounded clean. You could hear all the instruments. It was nice. It just came down really to the songwriting. There was nothing there. Nothing was said. When I finished the album, I was like, I just wasted my life. There was nothing I gained from listening to this album.
This is a week wasted listening to this album. And he's definitely like, I feel like he's trying to be the next Tony Bennett, but I don't think he ever will be.
Yeah, like he has such a distinctive voice that it can apply to everything. Like him singing Christmas tunes is gonna be a stretch, because like it's a really deep voice to be singing.
He has Christmas albums, my friend.
Oh Jesus.
Oh, he does. He definitely does.
But like, I don't know. This when I finished this album, I came out of it thinking there's no reason he should have released this. These are all like demo tapes essentially. Like
it's kind of funny, like Michael Bolton's best song is Jack Sparrow.
That is a good song. But like, I mean, at 25 studio albums at this point, like you don't need to be releasing albums. Like if it's just mediocre or not good, there's no reason to release anything.
Yeah, and we've discussed that too on the podcast, right? It's where do you set the point where it's like, okay, you know what? I'm not creatively coming out with anything good anymore. So why not? Like people are still going to listen to your hits.
Yeah.
Right. And I just think that this was unnecessarily released, and I don't think anybody would know, like other than this podcast, and unless you sent me that message being like, pick an album for this week, and I would not even known he would have come out with this album ever.
Yeah.
If you never messaged me that.
Yeah, it's quite unfortunate. All right, Eric, let's wrap this up. Final thoughts and ratings for this album.
I'm going to give this, you're going to laugh at me. You're going to totally laugh at me. but I'm giving this a 3 out of 10. And the only reason why I'm giving it a 3 is because he wrote the song or helped write or was a part of Jack Sparrow, which has nothing to do with this album.
With this album. Oh, jeez.
So that is why I'm giving it a 3 out of 10.
I'm giving it lower. I'm giving it a 2 out of 10 because it's not worth listening to at all. It's not like offensive to listen to. I'm not sitting here thinking like this is the worst thing I've ever heard in my life.
It's just boring.
It's just boring, and it's a struggle to listen to this thing.
So who's more boring, Kenny G or Michael Bolton?
Oof.
You know what? Next collaboration album.
Just based on this album, I would say Michael Bolton. At least Kenny G, like, with the saxophone, there's a bit of like dynamics there. But man, this album was so boring that I can't give it higher than a 2. At least it sounded sonically good, but this is not. This is better off not being released at all.
I agree.
Yeah. Anyways, that was our discussion on Spark a Light by Michael Bolton. Hopefully we never have to listen to this ever again.
You know what's funny? Next time you're like, hey, pick an album, and if Michael Bolton is coming out, you're gonna just leave that off the list.
I mean, who knows? I guess he'll keep releasing albums at this point. Like, what's 25 studio albums? Anyways, for those of you who are following along with us every single week, the album that we will be listening to and discussing will be The Ballad of Darren by Blur, their brand new album, which I think, Eric, you mentioned it last week, but I have not listened to any of this, so it'd be quite interesting.
I did. I actually liked Blur at the beginning of their career. So I'm actually going to be excited for this album. Like I think it'll be a good review.
Nice.
So and I'm very intrigued of what you think of this.
Yeah. I personally don't have any connection with Blur. I'm more of an Oasis guy, so it's going to be an interesting one for me. All right, perfect. So that is the Crossroads Music Podcast here at twitch.tv/the Crossroads Music Podcast. We are switching over to our Monday schedule now, and we're actually going to stick to Mondays for a little bit here. But here
until the end of time,
until one of us drops dead or a Michael Bolton fan comes in and
ridicules us.
Ridicules us.
Sends us hate mail
off the internet. Yeah. Yep, we're here live here at twitch.tv/the Crossroads Music Podcast every Monday at 10 p.m. ET, 7 p.m. PT. Catch us on Spotify, Apple Music. There's also the YouTube channel where we're slowly releasing our archived footage of our album reviews. So feel free to leave your hate mail there and disagree with all our comments on your favorite artist that we have disrespected.
Yes, come on, people, join in the fun.
But yeah, that's the show. That's the podcast. Eric, any final thoughts before we wrap this all up?
No, I think I'm excited for next week.
Nice. All right, perfect. So we will catch you all next time.